Rick, let's get right to it.
Good morning, Keith. Let's do it.
Good morning, man. So this one is called Doing the Hard Things, the title of this show. And this was inspired by an article that I read on James Jones, who is the young general manager of the Phoenix Suns. They had a terrific year in the 2020-21 season. He was asked about the coach he hired, Monty Williams, for the Suns. And he was asked why they were asked why do you guys have so much synergy and get along so well? He said, it's tough to do hard things with people you don't like. It's easy to do hard things with people you love. And so I thought about that, man, and I agree with that. And I agree in this way. First of all, my ego is always scanning for enemies. So if you don't agree with me, if you have a different point of view than I do, if you call me out on something, the list is endless of how many things that I will do to turn you into an enemy quickly. The shirt you're wearing, who you voted,
true.
Yeah, who you voted for. You didn't thank me for opening the door for you. It doesn't take but a split second. Cut me off in traffic. Don't let me over. It's a split second. I'm making you an enemy. So what I found is that if I use my ego to help me determine who I was going to like and love, man, that list would be short. And not only that, if you were on my love list, you're only a split second away from being off that list.
That's right.
It depends on what I wake up like that morning, man. I misplaced my keys, but I blame it on you because you were in the vicinity. Then you're automatically on the other list. I mean, it just happens. I forget about the 20, 30 years that you've done nothing but care for me, been kind for me. The one slip up or the one perceived slip up and you're on another list. So I had to, because I know that my software is faulty, it's glitchy in that way. I've had to redefine what it takes to be on that list. And it takes nothing from you to be on that list. Mm-hmm. So I'm just going to put everybody on the list to start with. And I'm not going to look for any reasons for you to be off the list, like who you voted for, whether you want to wear a mask or don't want to wear a mask, whether you look different than me, whether my ego says you don't look good in that color, whatever the case may be. I am just starting off with, I prefer to not know a whole lot about your background. Because as soon as I start to know a few things, I'm going to start to judge it. And then if you've had an exceptional, accomplished background, then I'm going to start comparing myself to you. Oh, yeah. and then I'm going to put you on another list too. Because who do you think you are? You think you're better than everybody, or I'm inferior? So Rick, I just found that I want to love and like everybody. And when I say love and like everybody, it's not based on your behavior. It's based on the consciousness that's inside of you. It's based on me loving the humanity that connects both of us. Yes. So when I do it that way, Rick, it's easy to partner with everybody.
It's a beautiful way to put it. That's a wonderful way to put it, Keith. If you start off with the default mode that everybody is your brother, or at least we have in common our human characteristics, you're looking really at everybody being sort of similar to you, with maybe a few things changed around the edges. And if we look at it that way, if we love ourselves, then it's not so hard to extend that to the whole human family. The interesting thing about that Jones quote is that he was saying, in so many words, I don't suffer. It's really not hard when I'm doing hard stuff for my little kid who I love. It's just, I'll jump through hoops. I'll do backflips for him. And it's not hard.
Right.
Okay. So here's the cool thing. So if you expand that group of people to whom you owe or feel affection for, then it's easy for you, right? So it's kind of a self-serving thing. It's not like I'm punishing myself because I'm doing this hard thing for a guy I don't like. If you conceptualize it that way, you're going to suffer.
100%.
If you flip it around, do a U-turn on that and come back to the idea, okay, I'm expanding the pool of people, that I admire, I like, or have no grudge against, and it's easy for me to work for them or to do things I don't like because, I like them.
Right.
So if you just do that little tiny shift, I think, it's a heck of a lot easier. That's what Jones was saying, I think there's also something else that's really at work here. And that is, my feeling is, my experience is, the more things that I do that are life affirming, that are helpful, not only to myself, but to other people, the better I feel about myself. I think that's why we like doing volunteer work. It's funny, you look at what happens like the 2 weeks before Christmas. Oh my God, you start giving homeless people $20 bills. I mean, you start throwing into the bell ringer's cage, all of the
Yeah.
bucket, all of the change you have in your pocket. In June, that doesn't happen. And the only thing that changes is an attitude shift about the season, which is about love and giving. And we're coming up to the close of the year. An old history is going by, and now we're starting a new hit. I mean, there's all of these emotions that humans are feeling, but nothing's changed. There's no difference between June and December.
Date on the calendar.
But we're so much more generous and more forgiving and more loving of others in December. Now think of this: if you could transfer that kind of thinking, that kind of emotional relationship to others in June that you have in December, wouldn't that be more powerful in terms of how the culture and society would benefit? But more importantly, how few opportunities for depression we'd have. I notice myself when I'm working hard for someone else and my head isn't up my butt and I'm not thinking about my needs and what I need and whether I'm getting enough strokes from life and all of the rest. When I feel like I'm being generous to others, my life and outlook improves immensely. I feel much more alive.
Yeah. Oh, 100%, Rick. I couldn't agree more, man. When I made it about serving, others without, and then took it to the next level without any expectation of anything in return and just contributing, man, it just changed everything. Like whenever I pull up to a traffic light, man, and I'm within 2 or 3 cars of someone who is, in need, and I give money to them or whatever, I don't go through the whole thing like, what are they going to do with the money with? That's not my job. That's not my path. My path, I see someone in need, I'm giving. Well, they could be like pulling one over you. They're not pulling anything over me. I'm choosing this. I'm choosing to do this. They could be pulling one over a life, but that's their path. And I just think about that all the time. Like, what is my path? And I just make it easy that I like everybody. Like I like everybody. And before, if I needed to have that person's story about why they were in need, or they had to look like me for me to give to them, dude, I was making everything hard. Don't make it hard, make it easy. I'm just going to give.
That's right. Yeah.
My mom saw this early on, man, when she would make us go down to the farm that we had in the family down to Mississippi and do farm work. Rick, man, I had so many narratives about this not being fair. It's my summer. My friends are not doing this. Or when we would go into assisted living facilities for seniors, and she would make us like do all this work. I was like, and it was all hard stuff, man. And at that point, I made all of that an enemy. My mom was the enemy for making me do it. The work was an enemy for making me do it. And I couldn't see the contribution that I was making to one of our seniors. And fortunately, as I've told you many times, my mom was disinterested in whether or not you wanted to do it or what your attitude was about it. You're doing it. Like, again, she was very committed. She's like, that selfishness is not getting out of childhood alive. And
that's great.
So wow. She slayed it early on. And that stayed with me all these years. And so, unfortunately, I don't have to like, anyone to do something. I don't have to, I'm choosing to. Yeah, and the more things that I can get out of my ego's view, line of sight, like by not needing to know something, the more people I can serve and I can contribute to. Lord knows, before the practice, I spent most of my life not liking anyone. At the end of the day, it was self-serving. Even when I did something for someone, I was like, did you notice I did the dishes?
Yeah, that's right.
She's like, thanks. One day out of 365. Thanks a lot, for doing it.
And you had to ask them to give you recognition for it.
I need a stroke, Rick. I need a stroke, man. My Tim says it best, You know, if I feed the homeless, that's for them. If I tell everybody or post on Facebook that I fed the homeless, that's for me. Like,
That's
dude, I need a stroke all the time. I don't know, man. I don't, like, because I'm choosing to like and love everyone. And that's not to be confused with people's behavior, what people say. I'm choosing to love the humanity that weaves and connects all of us. And by doing that, man, it makes it really easy to serve.
That's it. And it's a beautiful thing, Keith. And you are a service guy for sure. There's no doubt that that's where you're at in your life right now, on your path, serving others and helping others and trying to share with others some of the pain that you've gone through to help them avoid repeating some of the things that hung you up. Even if you can't get to the point where you think, it's really foreign to me to try to love everybody.
Yeah.
Too airy fairy. It's too, weird, or it's just not in me to do. Okay. All right. Accept that. But maybe you could shift your viewpoint to just a little by saying, at least I'm going to be neutral to everybody. I'm not going to love them, but I'm going to be neutral. That's a good first step.
Dude, that'd be huge. That'd be huge.
That'd be huge. Yeah. If we didn't start off by saying, here's all the reasons why these people don't count. And I think we do that subconsciously with others. Or here's the reason why this person doesn't count in my view because of things that he's done to me, my ego telling me that he's an enemy. I mean, if you can just erase that and get to the point, I don't love this guy, but I'm neutral toward him. Okay, so that's a start. That's a really important start. But I will tell you that if you can get to the point of neutral within a couple of years, months or weeks or days, you'll realize that if you take the next step and have an optimistic view of every person's potential and every person's similarity to who you are, you're going to shift and enjoy your life a lot more because you'll be out of judgment. That your first step won't be, there's something wrong with you. It'll be, he's okay, I'm okay.
100%, man.
And once you get to that point where you're kind of neutral, it's easy to hop over into the, hey, that's really cool thing. Somebody said, and I think we've mentioned this in the podcast before, somebody said that one of the cool things in life when you don't hate everybody else is that you actually become a little bit interested in them. And the joy is in finding how that person might be superior to you in some way. And by that, I mean how well that person copes with life in a way that you don't. So I love that idea. I when I meet new people, I try to listen a lot to what their story is and where they've come from. And then I try to figure out, what does this person do in life better than what I do? And how does he do it? So I might say to him, I struggle with public speaking. I do it for a living, but, I'm scared to death. And sometimes I even throw up before I talk. And then I worry about, I'm getting older. Am I conjugating the verbs properly? So right. You're doing this very well. How do you do that? And it's very interesting to listen to people tell you how they've mastered what they've done, or even more important, to see that they share the same fear as you do. You might get a response in my example of a guy saying, oh man, sometimes I can't even sleep, and I just like you, which reinforces the idea that we're all in essence the same. We're all in the same potato patch. We're just different potatoes, but we're all connected by the vines underneath the earth that control all of humanity. And I don't know, it's a joyful thing. And the last point I'll make on this thing, and I think it's important, but my experience has been that the meaning of life, the true meaning of life is something that is always internal. And if you can find meaning in little tiny things that other people bring you, or a peaceful experience with nature, those two things really contribute, in my view, to a meaningful life. And it's not so much that you even have to go out looking for a meaningful life. It's not so much that you're on a path to find enlightenment. It's that you want the experience of being alive, right? It's not, you don't go grasping for the meaning of life, you go grasping for experience. And usually the experience comes from nature and other people informing you who you are.
Oh, I love that, Rick. That's beautiful, man. Thank you, man. I think that's a great way to, cap off the show. I will, just Yeah, I mean, I think that's beautiful. You know, I don't have anything else to add. I mean, you are just really, really spot on, man. And well, I'll add this is that when I'm able to really, I have a choice in how I create the other person to be in terms of liking them.
Mm.
And so if I can just create them to be just another human being, and then with them being a human being, accepting them exactly as they are, not demanding that they be different or change. I'm a big believer that we can't out behave our current level of consciousness. And so whatever we're thinking,
Wow.
whatever narrative we're locked in that moment, that's how we show up.
That's right.
So and which means that we can change our narrative. We can change our current level of consciousness to something that's loving and that's kind. And we see people change this all the time. There's like, oh my God, Keith was kind today. You know, this is what people would say back in the day. Like, he was nice today. And because my level of consciousness in that moment had changed. And so knowing that people loved and accepted me and showed me a lot of grace, depending on what my level of consciousness was, accepting my level of consciousness in that moment, I pay that forward by when people show up and they're not their best self, they may say some really outrageous things, then that's their level of consciousness, and I accept them to be where they are. I mean, if you listen to things that create enemies of other people, that make other people wrong all the time, that judge people, I'm shocked when you don't do that. Like, I'm shocked. Like, they were like, I'm surprised, because that's not normally how they operate, or what they listen to all the time, or the people that they surround themselves with. So I don't expect them to be different. I expect them to be that. And in the space of them showing up that way, I'm still going to choose to love you, because I'm seeing beyond that level of consciousness. I'm choosing.
Well, you have just put it in, that's the ball game. Yeah, you just put it in the right term. Despite what the circumstances, despite who they show up as, it's how you deal with it that counts. And if it's loving and optimistic, you're going to feel a whole lot better inside. It's going to be a cleaner inner self.
100%, Rick. Thanks, man. I love you, man.
I love you too, Kate. Thanks for sharing all your stuff. You know, your examples are just incredible, and I live my life thinking about your mom quite a bit and what you've gone through in your life, and I really appreciate you being so forthcoming about it. Thanks.
Oh, thank you, Rick. Love you.
Adios.